With a government funding deadline coming up on September 30th, shutdown brinksmanship now finds itself at the center of populist politics once again. But of course, Saagar, we're not talking about Ted Cruz and Mike Lee, although we'll get to them in just a moment. We're talking about Ezra Klein. We're talking about progressives in the House and in the Senate who now face quite an interesting decision: to fund the government or not to fund the government, to cooperate with Republicans or to push for a shutdown and rally the troops. Let's go ahead and put up on the screen this Ezra Klein op-ed, which was everywhere. You've probably already seen it, actually. This is C1. Actually, we're gonna play a shot of Ezra Klein talking about the op-ed. He wrote in the New York Times, the headline was, "Stop acting like this is normal." And towards the end of the piece, Ezra Klein says, "I'm not a political strategist. I hope somebody has better ideas than I do, but it's been about 6 months since Schumer decided that it wasn't the time for a fight," referring back to the brief moment where Democrats considered in March a government shutdown that neither he, Ezra continues, nor the country was ready. Democratic leaders have had 6 months to come up with a plan. If there's a better plan than a shutdown, great. But if the plan is still nothing, then Democrats need new leaders. So let's go ahead and bring Ezra in himself via this SOT from the New York Times.
We are no longer in the muzzle velocity stage of this presidency, where Donald Trump is trying things and seeing what sticks. We are in the authoritarian consolidation stage of this presidency. I want to be very clear about what I'm saying here. Donald Trump is corrupting the government. He's using it to hound his enemies, to line his pockets, and to entrench his own power. He is corrupting it the way the mafia would corrupt the industries it controlled. You could still, under mafia rule, get the trash picked up by cement, but the point of those industries had become the preservation and expansion of the mafia's power and wealth. This is what Donald Trump is doing to the government. This is what Democrats cannot fund. I think the case for a shutdown is this. A shutdown is an intentional event. It's an effort to turn the diffuse crisis of Trump's corrupting the government into an acute crisis that the media, that the public will pay attention to. Right now, Democrats have no power, so no one cares what they have to say. A shutdown would make people listen. But then Democrats would have to actually win the argument. They would need to have an argument. In my head, the argument is something like this. Donald Trump won the election. He is the legitimate president. His government should be funded so long as it is acting the way the government is supposed to, serving the people, being held accountable. But there are red lines that cannot be crossed. ICE can conduct legitimate deportations, but it can't be masked men roaming the streets, refusing to identify themselves or their authority.
Remember your right to remain silent.
The Trump family cannot be hoovering in money and investments from the countries that depend on us and fear our power and our sanctions. There have to be inspectors general and JAGs and career prosecutors watching to make sure the government is being run on behalf of the people rather than on behalf of the Trump family. Democratic leaders have had 6 months to come up with a plan. If there is a better plan than a shutdown, great. But if the plan is still nothing, act normal and hope for the best, then Democrats need new leaders.
So what Klein is calling for there is Democrats to use some of their votes in the Senate to say, no, Trump, you have to come to the table or this is a government shutdown. We are going to be okay with this idea of taking the blame. We're going to get into that in a moment because it goes back deep into Republican politics over the last 10 plus years, because it's worth it on our end to hope the messaging that comes out of all of this is that, yes, we want the blame for shutting down the government because we're trying to have Donald Trump come to the table on reasonable demands about very unpopular measures he has taken. So maybe that involves ICE. Maybe that involves making the issue about some of these government agencies that have been defunded. You could come up with a million different ways that Democrats can message this, but they didn't want to do it at all back in March. And Klein's argument is the world has changed since then. What he's saying doesn't apply now for Schumer's case is the judiciary has not stopped a lot of Donald Trump's priorities. That's the Ezra Klein case. But let's go to Capitol Hill, where Mike Johnson was addressing some questions about it just yesterday. House Speaker Mike Johnson about a potential shutdown and the funding battle. This is C2.
House Republicans continue to work through regular order to fund the government for FY26, for the next fiscal year. We're working closely with the White House and the Senate to ensure we meet our deadlines, and Chairman Cole, Tom Cole of the Appropriators, continues to diligently work towards getting all 12 bills out of committee. And they're almost done with that. And as we get closer to the funding deadline, though, we recognize the shutdown chatter from the left is growing louder. Some of these people seem to enjoy this. It seems Democrats may take the path of maximum resistance and try to shut the government down. If Democrats are willing to work with us, we have our sleeves rolled up and we want to do this in good faith. We just have to think responsibly how to spend less money than we did last year. And if they're willing to do that, and it's incumbent upon all of us to do it with the high national debt, we're open to that. But the ultimate question of whether there's going to be a government shutdown at the end of the month is going to be up to congressional Democrats, and that's just the way it is.
Was that Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and John McCain circa 2014 or 2013 that I was hearing? No, of course, that was Mike Johnson saying Democrats are looking like they want to choose the path of, quote, maximum resistance. Maximum resistance. Okay, now this came on the heels of a report from Punchbowl. So this is John Bresnahan, next element we can put up. He said, news, House Democrats had an angry caucus meeting this morning, so that was yesterday, over government funding and possible shutdown. Rank and file Dems want party leaders, especially Schumer, to be willing to shut down the government in order to get what they want on Obamacare and Medicaid. That post in and of itself, I mean, if you just reversed the parties and put it up verbatim in 2013 would be such a parallel to what's happening right now. A number of Democrats stood up to complain at the meeting. Most of the anger was aimed at Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats, but Bresnahan reported. So let's then get in our time machine and go back to 2013 and listen to the way some Republicans, Mike Lee, we're going to have a clip from Mike Lee, and then we're going to have a tweet from Ted Cruz that we're going to put up on the screen. We just want to revisit the tone that Republicans were taking back in those battles, because what Democrats are actually talking about right now is the potential substantive effect of a fight, but more than anything, the effect that a fight would have on morale and on Democrats' national messaging strategy, because we have covered here poll after poll showing the Democratic Party's brand is absolutely in the tank. It is a total crisis level for national Democrats, and they need a better messaging strategy, obviously. So some of the argument from Ezra Klein and others right now is this is your opportunity to say what Democrats are for in a way that actually puts the onus on Donald Trump to do something. And that is what has been debated for the last 10 years, because the Washington establishment said all of these shutdown fights made Republicans look like, foolish obstructionists. And we remember how the Jeffersons were treated on Veep, right? They called themselves the Jeffersons. That was part of the joke. The Freedom Caucus group that was parodied on Veep, you probably remember well. This was the cultural treatment of the Tea Party. They're, obstructionists who cared more about shutting down the government than making the government work for people. And that's, a powerful argument as far as it goes. But at the same time, Obamacare, we forget, went through a very unpopular phase around this time period in ways that Democrats can reflect on now. So here's a little gift. This is a flashback to Mike Lee during the 2013 shutdown battle.
The position taken by the Democrats is not defensible. What they're saying is, unless you fund everything in government, including Obamacare, we will not let you fund anything. That's crazy. The American people know what's crazy.
President Obama said he would be willing to negotiate if you reopen government and if you raise the debt ceiling. What would you say to that?
Well, I'd like to know what it is that he's willing to negotiate on. I mean, first of all, the fact that he's even willing to negotiate at all is itself a welcome change. But it is a change because so far what he's been telling us is, you do it my way, you do it exactly my way, or we will not do it at all. He can't do that. He's not a dictator. He's not a despot. He does have to deal with Congress. So if he's willing to negotiate, that's great. I'd like to see where he's willing to negotiate. Back in early July was when I saw that he was changing the law, when I saw that the president himself was saying this law is not ready to implement and he's not going to follow it. I thought, well, Congress shouldn't fund it if it's not ready, if he's not going to follow it.
He's not a dictator. He's not a despot, referring to Barack Obama at the time, because Mike Lee said he has to work with Congress. So if Senate Democrats deprive Republicans of the 60 votes that they need to pass a bipartisan continuing resolution, because this is the ridiculous way that we fund our government, which, by the way, Mike Johnson was opposed to. But If that's what we are doing, then Senate Democrats can force Donald Trump to come to the table, or I mean, the cost of forcing Trump to come to the table is taking the blame for shutting down the government. But Democrats can use that as an opportunity to say, if Donald Trump wants to fund the government, exactly what Mike Lee is saying there to Barack Obama, if Democrats want to fund the government, if Donald Trump wants the government to reopen, he can actually accede to some reasonable, popular demands about X, Y, and Z. Maybe it's USAID, whatever it is. I don't think that would be a popular demand, but just one example of the many things that Donald Trump has changed. Not all of them are popular. Some of them are, but not all of them are. And so then Democrats have an opportunity to make the fight about that and say, Donald Trump is not a dictator. He has to work with Congress. We are Congress, and we're asking for these things to be done. So let's put this next element on the screen. It's Ted Cruz. I went deep back into Ted Cruz's Twitter history. This is 2013. Obama admin chose to shut down government rather than defund/delay Obamacare not long ago, yet here we are. So listen to the verbiage there. Obama admin chose to shut down the government rather than defund/delay Obamacare. Obviously, I mean, of course, we all knew at the time. I mean, even in that Mike Lee clip we just ran, the chyron was Peter King. There's a flashback. Republican Peter King referring to them as the, quote, suicide caucus. That was the internal battle happening among establishment Republicans and Tea Party Republicans at the time. And look at this, C6. This is from the Peter Sosnick memo that went super viral, always does whenever it comes out. And when it was published in Politico a couple weeks ago, it's Gallup data. It goes back to January of 2008, and it shows Republicans' favorability with their own party and Democrats' favorability with their own party. The Democrat level right now is at 73%. 73% Democrats favorable of their own party, 91% Republicans currently favorable with their own party. The only time either party has had any level of favorability that low, guess when it is, 2009, Republicans in 2009. And if you argue that the Tea Party wasn't a successful populist takeover of the Republican Party, you're wrong. You're wrong. Donald Trump completely showed that. In fact, Donald Trump learned from that. So if you are a populist progressive Democrat right now, it is abundantly obvious, Saagar. And this block was your idea. I've been modeling for like 20 minutes right now.
That's why I asked you to do it.
But it is so obvious for Democrats that they have a golden opportunity on a platter in front of them. And if they are too bitch ass to take it.
They definitely are, by the way. Well, I think they're they're just like the Republican leadership of that time, the Boehners and the others. They're like, look, that's not how we do stuff. Even Boehner
went along with it at
That's
some
true.
point.
I mean, eventually did cave. But, you know, I'm trying to think about the original Republican leaders. They're like, well, that's not how we do things in Washington.
John McCain.
We have a process, and we have the committees. And they were like, bro, you're not listening. Like, you're not understanding like how angry people are right now. But, I mean, it is an open question. Did it work? Like, what is the legacy of shutdown politics for Republicans? I'm not sure it did. Like, right, the original, what was the big shutdown? 2013?
Yeah.
That was after 2012, pre-DACA. It kind of inspired Obama to do DACA, so I would say a bit of a backlash. But my point, though, is that I kind of think Obama won if you go back and you look at some of the polling. Now, look, you could make an argument in the long run, because in the immediate term, remember, Obama shut down the national parks. People freaked out. They blamed Republicans. They called it, I remember Boehner shutdown was trending. The Democrats were very sophisticated at that time. And also they had the media on their side. I guess this time around, the media probably would be on the Democrat side. But
Oh, totally.
And it would satisfy like the bloodlust for a lot of the Democratic voters. But people get real mad whenever they don't get paid or there's not basic government services. And I'm not sure who they would blame. It's a different
except federal workers
moment.
Right now despise Trump. And
that's true. Yeah. And so maybe they would eat it. I'm not so sure. You take 2 paychecks away from somebody, and that's a little dangerous. Trump did buckle, to be fair, in the first shutdown under his administration. I covered that extensively. It was like a 17-day shutdown, and he basically caved to Nancy Pelosi and to Chuck Schumer.
Because he knows it's bad.
Because he knew it was bad.
He's uncomfortable with it for himself. And that's where I think Mike Johnson, the sound that we played of him earlier, saying, we don't want to do this. We don't want to do this. We want to work with Democrats.
Right.
It's actually interesting because he sounds sincere in that to me, because I think he knows the president does not want this battle.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't know who it would fall on, at this point. But yeah, I wonder, I do wonder if it's worth doing just purely politically for the Democrats solely to show, yeah, we can do something. We're not just going to give them what we want. You have to extract some pound of flesh. The thing is, though, as you and I know, is when the Republican leaders would eventually cave to Obama, or they would do some sort of deal where Obama supposedly caved to them,
Right.
it was never enough for the Tea Party caucus or any of these other people.
'Cause
They were
that
like,
wasn't
no,
the
we can't
point.
go all in.
Because that wasn't the point.
Right, yeah.
The point was radical.
I'm saying, though, 10 years later, 12 years later, actually, do you think it worked out for the Republicans, like in the legacy of shutdown politics?
I think it worked out for the Republican politicians. So a lot of people from that era have gone on to be the heavy hitters in the Trump administration. I don't think Republicans would look at this generational change of the party with Trump without these shutdown fights, because what they did was show national Republicans that the base, the people who are in the county party headquarters, making the calls, knocking on the doors, were so very mad at the party.
Yeah, I remember.
And that was a lesson that I think eventually is why Republicans gave way to Trump in a way that Democrats didn't give way to Bernie.
Oh, interesting.
To their benefit.
That's very true. Yeah, you're right.
But that said, I think Republican voters continue to lose because look at this administration. Is there an actual populist will in the administration to do what Republican voters really wanted with the Tea Party, which was not all that different, despite at the time people thinking it was, between Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party. It was this sense of injustice and unfairness. And that has not been remedied, nor will it be remedied in the near future, even if Democrats, I mean, that's where this could be a politically disastrous decision for Democrats because based on their class bubble, they could end up picking the absolute dumbest battles to shut down the government over. Like I was joking earlier about USAID.
Right.
Like, what, are they going to shut down the government to bring back USAID? Don't put it past them. They actually are that stupid. Are they going to shut down the government to protect some of the 30-year-old single men who are taking jobs away from poor Americans by being here illegally or entering the border? I mean, there are some things on deportations they could do that I think would be popular, but watch them choose the dumbest popular battle.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think that they care more about process and all that stuff more than anything. You're right. That would not put a USAID shutdown past them. I have no idea, actually, which way they will go. But I enjoyed your trip down memory lane. Thank you for updating us all.
All
right,
of course.
Let's go to, you are the shutdown expert. We always will. We'll keep you that. And we'll keep you that resonant here at Breaking Points. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.